Hello and a very warm welcome. It's 9 p.m. IST and we are coming to you live from the WION headquarters in Noida, India. I am Molly Gambhir and you're watching Gravitas. Let's get started. Will Hezbollah hit Israel's top secret nuclear base? What is the latest situation on the ground? Where do things go from here? And what do these escalating tensions mean for the entire region and for the world? We decode this and more as a part of our top story tonight on Gravitas. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show. What is the Vatican's secret deal with China? What is the purpose? This is coming up in just a bit. We focus on the rise of the far right in France and what it means for the people on the ground. You don't want to miss this story. If you have been following the action on the cricket ground, you have not missed the performance of the Afghan cricket team for sure. On Gravitas tonight, we get you a special report. All this and more coming up. Stay with us. The Hezbollah-Israel war is on the edge of the unimaginable. It could descend into doomsday with one Hezbollah strike on Israel's nuclear facility at Dimona, the home of Israel's nuclear weapons. Israel is estimated to possess 80 nuclear bombs. If their nuclear facility is hit, it could be mass destruction through radiation and then the Israeli response. The nuclear cloud has no boundaries, you see. It will kill Israelis and Arabs as easily. Will the Hezbollah-Israel conflict take a nuclear turn is the question. Will Hezbollah strike Israel's secret nuclear base? A couple of days ago, we asked you, is a Hezbollah versus Israel war imminent? Tonight, that question has evolved into more than just hypotheses. Just have a look at what's going on. After both Israel and Hezbollah upped the war rhetoric, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has issued a new stark warning to Israel. He has boasted that his rockets can reach Israel's southern city of Dimona. Do you know what Israel keeps in Dimona? It's nuclear reactors. Yes, that is how dangerous the situation has now become. On Saturday, Hezbollah released a video message threatening to attack Israel if a full-scale conflict were to break out in Lebanon. The video released by Hezbollah shows coordinates, both longitude and latitude, for potential targets, without naming any of them. Reports suggest that the video shows an airport, 2 power plants, a cargo port, a gas field, and what has been described as a nuclear research center. Now that's the shocking part. One of the potential targets appears to be Israel's nuclear facility at Dimona. Israel does not admit, but what Israel keeps in Dimona has been an open secret for a very long time. It is where Israel produces plutonium. Plutonium is the primary fuel used in nuclear weapons. In fact, according to data released by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or SIPRI, last week, Israel has been quietly upgrading its plutonium production reactor site at Dimona. As per SIPRI, Israel is believed to have around 90 nuclear weapons in its arsenal. What happens when Hezbollah decides to attack Israel's nuclear facilities in Dimona then? No points for guessing. A catastrophe. The world is already facing a nuclear risk in the form of the Russia-Ukraine war. Now West Asia has become a nuclear tinderbox. The video message released by Hezbollah also included a clip from a speech of Hezbollah chief delivered last week. And in the video, Nasrallah warns if a war is imposed on Lebanon, the resistance will fight without restraints, without rules, without limits. Hezbollah's threat will naturally rattle the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. No wonder then Netanyahu promptly sent his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to Washington, D.C. for a meeting with U.S. officials. Gallant met with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and other officials. They are expected to discuss developments in Gaza and Lebanon. His trip to Washington comes days after Netanyahu accused the U.S. of delaying weapons shipments to Israel. Comments White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby called perplexing, but a defiant Netanyahu defended his remarks on Sunday, saying that his job is to do everything to ensure that soldiers receive the arms that they need. Well, of course, opening a second major front in Lebanon will surely strain the Israeli military further. You see, they are already fighting Hezbollah's ally Hamas in Gaza. But a fight with Hezbollah is not the same as a fight with Hamas, and Israel knows that. Israel is aware of just how grave this threat from Hezbollah chief really is. You see, Hezbollah has a more professional army, more advanced weaponry as well as compared to Hamas. They have battled Israel to a bloody stalemate in two previous wars, one in 1996 and one in 2006. Hezbollah has the manpower. It is estimated by some experts, in fact, that Hezbollah's manpower stands at 250,000. They are known to have many precision-guided missiles, drones, torpedoes. Considered stronger than Hamas, Hezbollah is the most heavily armed non-state actor in the world. Even though Hezbollah and Israel have traded blows, exchanged rocket and drone fire on a nearly daily basis since the Gaza war started, the group managed to catch Israel off guard last week when it published the video threat. The video exposed Israel's possible vulnerabilities, and that is why we say that the video released by Hezbollah is sure to have caused significant concern among the Israeli security apparatus. No one in Israel will be taking the threat from Hezbollah lightly, that's for sure. Questions are already being asked, in fact. Can Israel really handle the threat posed by Hezbollah's drones and missiles? The Iron Dome failed once, triggering the Gaza war. Can it protect Israel from Hezbollah in case a war breaks out? While Yoav Gallant holds talks with the Americans, Netanyahu has decided to wind down operations in Gaza as the focus shifts to defending its border with Lebanon. So dire is the situation that Israel has decided to end the intense fighting in Gaza and redeploy the forces to the northern border. But can Israeli forces suffering battle fatigue from Gaza actually get the job done? So volatile is the situation right now that one rash move, one miscalculation could trigger a major catastrophe. Lebanon is already a country on the brink. It has a weak caretaker government. It is ravaged by economic crisis. The people of the country are living in poverty. A full-on conflict between Israel and Lebanon would quickly, likely, spread across the region. It could trigger responses from Hezbollah's allies in Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Iran, from what Iran describes as the axis of resistance, basically. Can the world afford another war? Can the world afford a World War III? Let's now shift our focus to the Vatican's secret deal with China. You heard that right. Reports say that the Vatican is set to renew a controversial agreement with China. And this, by the way, is despite concerns from senior Catholics and campaigners that it will force the church to remain silent on human rights abuses. But what is this pact all about? We can't say for sure. The terms of the agreement are secret. What we hear is it allows the Chinese government influence over the selection of bishops in the country. First introduced in 2018, the pact has been extended for a third time. Last week, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the highest-ranking Vatican official after Pope Francis, made the announcement. The deal is being seen as an attempt to ease a long-standing divide across mainland China between an underground flock loyal to the Pope and a state-backed official church. For the first time since the 1950s, both sides recognize the Pope as the supreme leader of the Catholic Church. Following the renewal of this landmark accord between the Vatican and China, Pope Francis appointed Giuseppe Yongqiang as Bishop of Hangzhou, the capital of China's eastern province of Zhejiang. And making the appointment, the Vatican said on Saturday that it strives to strengthen ties with Beijing. But the pact between a communist China and the Vatican is being seen by critics as a compromise. Conservative Catholics view the deal, in fact, as a sellout to communist China. Meanwhile, critics are saying that the church has not done enough to address democracy fears in China. They say it undermines the Vatican's credibility as a champion of the oppressed. Of course, the Vatican has defended the deal with China as quote-unquote imperfect means. The Vatican says it will lead to some form of dialogue with the authorities for the good of all Chinese Catholics, while the Pope sees the deal as a way of holding the Chinese church together. Critics do not agree. They say that it will, in fact, stifle it in the process. How, you ask? By compromising on religious freedom. Remember, the Vatican has been criticized to take a stance on human rights abuses and the erosion of democracy in Hong Kong. Then there is also the question of freedom for all bishops, including those who are being ostracized or put under house arrest by the communist regime in China. So given all of this criticism, how does the pact with China help the Vatican? Massively. Apparently, according to an analysis published by the Catholic news agency Asia News, the Vatican has been struggling for influence. Their 5-year plan for the Sinicization of Catholicism in China was published on Christmas Day on the website of the Chinese Catholic Church. The plan basically mentions the Chinese leader Xi Jinping at least 4 times. It says that Catholicism must take on Chinese characteristics at least 5 times. And lastly, the word Sinicization is mentioned 53 times. You see what we are getting at? Apart from seeking influence in the modern times, the Vatican hopes to avoid a divide within China's estimated 12 million Catholics. It hopes to basically avoid a divide between a patriotic church loyal to the communist regime and an underground church faithful to Rome. The Vatican is reportedly keen on re-establishing diplomatic relations which were interrupted in the year 1951 when the church was expelled from China by the communist government. Experts say the Vatican is hopeful that by allowing the Chinese government the power to choose bishops, they protect the Catholics inside China, but the situation has only gotten worse. Rights activists saying that by renewing the pact for a third time, the Vatican risks rewarding China for the repression. They say that the Vatican has ignored the pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, a lot of whom are Catholics. The intention may be good, but is it enough? That seems to be the overwhelming response to this secretive pact between China and the Vatican. Let's now shift our focus to Pakistan, where its top leadership has cleared the decks to launch a new military operation to curb terrorism in the country. They are calling it Azm-e-Istikam, meaning resolve for stability. The goal basically is to quell the surge in violence. It was announced after Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif reviewed the country's counter-terrorism operations over the weekend. Will it work is the question, especially given the fact that Pakistan's terrorism problem is a self-made monster. Let's find out. First things first, Pakistan's new military plan is expected to focus on domestic security threats and armed fighters crossing over from Afghanistan. It comes at a time of mounting tensions between Islamabad and the Taliban regime in Kabul. As per the statement issued by Shehbaz Sharif's office, the plan is to intensify efforts to curtail terrorists through regional cooperation with Pakistan's neighbors. In fact, the statement says that the campaign will be complemented by socio-economic measures aimed at addressing genuine concerns of the people and creating an environment that discourages extremist tendencies. Now, this is new. This is the same country that had no problem fanning the flames of extremism, remember, if it meant exporting terror to its neighborhood. Moreover, if Pakistan had genuinely worked on addressing its people's concerns, the security situation in the country would have been much better. But here they are. You see, this new campaign is only the latest in a series of military operations that Pakistan has launched to eliminate armed violence. In April 2023, during Sharif's previous tenure as Prime Minister, Pakistan had made a similar announcement. An official military campaign never commenced. Since it has tried and failed in the past, questions arise as to what Islamabad really hopes to accomplish now. Moreover, the launch date of Azm-e-Istikam is yet to be formally announced. The question is the latest crackdown on terrorism all for show then? We would not be surprised if it is. After all, the Pakistani establishment is known to have made promises it cannot keep, especially when it comes to terror outfits who have a safe haven there in the country. Now the chickens have come home to roost. Over the last 18 months, Pakistan has witnessed a dramatic surge in violent incidents. Most of these attacks are claimed by the Tehreek-e-Taliban, a group ideologically aligned with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Since unilaterally ending a ceasefire in November 2022, the TTP has attacked Pakistan's forces multiple times. Pakistan has repeatedly urged Kabul to rein them in, but Islamabad's concerns have fallen on deaf ears in Kabul. Today, those strained ties between Islamabad and Kabul are on the verge of being tested further. How, you ask? If Pakistan extends its counter-terrorism military operation into Afghanistan, data saying Pakistan witnessed nearly 1,000 casualties from almost 700 incidents of violence in the year 2023. Most attacks occurred in the northwestern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the southwestern province of Balochistan. And what's more, violent attacks have continued in 2024, including incidents targeting Chinese installations and nationals in both northern and southern regions. In the month of March, an attack on a convoy of Chinese engineers resulted in the deaths of at least 5 Chinese nationals and a Pakistani. China, one of Pakistan's key allies, has invested $62 billion in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor Development Project, CPEC. And here on Gravitas, we have been telling you how the terror attacks against Chinese interests in the country and the Pakistani establishment's inability to stop that is ending up souring the relations between the two all-weather allies, the so-called all-weather allies. Well, now it's confirmed. The Chinese side has expressed its concern to Islamabad. They have expressed to the Pakistani side that the primary factor shaking the confidence of the Chinese investors is the security situation. The question is, did these Chinese concerns influence the Pakistani leadership? Did economic considerations and the need for more Chinese investments inspire Islamabad to announce the anti-terror crackdown? Experts already sound skeptical about the operation's potential for success, in fact. You see, these armed groups primarily target security forces with the goal of undermining Islamabad's interests in the provinces that are worst affected by armed violence. A lack of public support for security forces, experts say, could hinder the operation's effectiveness. Though China has pressured Pakistan to crack down on the armed violence, Beijing's strategic relationship with the Taliban means that it is not entirely on the same page as Islamabad when it comes to the current rulers in Kabul. Pakistan and China diverge on how to approach the Taliban. Therefore, Islamabad's campaign to pressure the Taliban may directly challenge Beijing's stance on Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Chinese telecommunication devices meant for the Pakistan army are being recovered from the terror groups in Jammu and Kashmir. You heard that right. In recent recoveries made by the security forces, highly encrypted Chinese telecom gear known as Ultra-Set, mostly used by the Pakistan army, was recovered from the terrorists. Jammu and Kashmir Police's DGP recently had said that there are around 70 to 80 foreign terrorists active in the Union territory, and most of them had recently infiltrated. And this clearly indicates that these terror groups are hand in glove with the Pakistan army. The Chinese equipment has been often recovered by the security forces in the Kashmir Valley from the terrorists active in Jammu and Kashmir. In a recent hideout bust in North Kashmir, sources in the security forces said that they had recovered the Ultra-Set handsets from the operation site, while as after the recent attacks in Jammu, and the forces also recovered it from the terrorists in the area. These Chinese-made Ultra-Set handsets mostly combine cell phone capabilities with specialized radio equipment that does not rely on traditional mobile technologies like Global System for Mobile, that's GSM, or Code Division Multiple Access, CDMA. Ultra-Set handsets work on radio waves for message transmission and reception, with each Ultra-Set linked to a control station located across the border. Sources say that Chinese satellites are used to carry these messages that are compressed to bytes from the handset to the master server in Pakistan for its onward transmission. And the recovery of this equipment from the terror outfits also indicates the support that the Chinese government is providing to Pakistan, which eventually lands up in the hands of these terror outfits. And this also comes in the backdrop of China-Pakistan meeting regarding the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, that's CPEC, the third round of Joint Consultative Mechanism, that's JCM, of the political parties on CPEC, and Pakistan-China Political Parties Forum was held in Islamabad. And in the meeting, both China and Pakistan reaffirmed the salience of CPEC and pledged to make joint efforts for its upgradation and for further strengthening Pakistan-China all-weather strategic cooperative partnership. Let's now shift our focus. The Himalayan glaciers have been dealing with the impact of the heat wave in northern India. There are around 18,000 glaciers in Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh, and all of them are melting rapidly as the heat wave continues to grip the region. Israel Sloan getting us this special report.
The Kola-Hoik Glacier in the Kashmir Valley, the biggest glacier in the region, has lost around 23% of its mass in the last few decades due to the rise in temperatures and below normal precipitation in the winters. The stated reasons: the scorching heat wave over North India and increase in even normal temperatures over the years. Rising deforestation and air pollution add to the problem, and experts warn that an environmental disaster lurks.
It is a major concern. The melting of glaciers, if you look at Indian Himalayan glaciers, it's already under the adverse effect of climate change. We are seeing most of the Himalayan glaciers melting. They were because of the impact of the increase in the temperatures and the outcome of the climate change. If the current trend of climate change continues, 70% of glaciers will vanish by the end of this century.
Horticulture and agriculture are the major contributors to the GDP of Jammu and Kashmir. And most of the valley's agricultural and horticultural land depends on the melting of snow on higher reaches, which fills up the streams and rivers. Data has revealed that the Kashmir Valley has lost over 30,000 hectares of agricultural land in 10 years.
It may not impact in a one particular year or impact with a blow. Like this year there is water enough, and the next year there won't be any water left. No, it won't happen like that. It will happen slowly until we won't notice it. Or if we talk about the past 5 years, the winter precipitation has been below normal, so we can estimate from it our glaciers are reducing already. We aren't seeing the normal precipitation in winter season.
The erratic melting of these glaciers in the higher reaches will also impact the power generation in these areas. Experts believe the water scarcity in the region could have an adverse impact on hydroelectric power projects. Power projects in Jammu and Kashmir are also a big source of electricity for the whole of North India.
The rise in the temperatures across the globe leading to the global warming is having an adverse impact on the glaciers of Jammu and Kashmir. And with the pace these glaciers are melting, experts believe that by the end of this century, 70% of these glaciers would completely vanish. With video journalist Feroz Idris Sloan for WION World is One.
Let's now shift focus to what's happening in France, where a sense of fear and the concern of France's neighboring countries and a wave of demonstrations all have one underlying factor in common: the rise of the far right. Protests against the far right continue as the polling day inches closer. Le Pen leader Jordan Bardella has said that his party is ready to take over the country's reins. Listen in.
I solemnly say to my compatriots that the National Rally today is the only movement capable of immediately and sensibly responding to the clearly expressed aspirations of the French people in 3 words: we are ready. That is why we are aware of the seriousness of what is at stake.
Polls show the far right in a comfortable lead as French President Emmanuel Macron's centrist party trails far behind. But there are parts of the French society that are worried over the rise of far-right parties. Sunday saw thousands of protesters, particularly women, taking to the streets. They fear a decline in reproductive rights, women's rights, should the National Rally come to power.
I'm here because I'm a woman and I don't want my rights to be taken from me because some far-right movement wants to take the power in France. And I want also to show that they are not welcome here. And I want to fight for those who can't fight, the people who are from the LGBT, the people who are not from France but they are welcome in France. So that's why.
During the debates around the legislation of the IVG, we could well observe how the far-right deputies were very uncomfortable with the subject. Were calling for the filling of cribs with French babies. So we're witnessing a comeback of an archaic order that women can't tolerate. And it is also a culture of hate that feminists have always abhorred. Because feminists have always developed international solidarity, a culture of peace which is in total contradiction with the values of the National Rally.
The rising popularity of far-right party National Rally also has France's Muslim population worried following the party's strong mandate at the EU parliamentary elections. Muslims saying that the country is at a dangerous juncture. The comments and growing fear were further cemented when far-right supporters took to the streets of Lyon last week, raising slogans like, and I'm quoting here, "We are Nazis and Islam out of Europe." Now, the incident for many Muslims in France brought back the spotlight on what many have referred to as growing Islamophobia in a country that is home to 6 million Muslims, the largest in Europe, by the way. For the population, the National Rally Party's rise means restrictions on Muslims to practice their religion. In the year 2021, the RN party had tabled a bill which called for a ban on quote-unquote Islamist ideologies and on all kinds of headscarves in all public places. Currently, the law prohibits wearing headscarves in public schools and bans the wearing of full-face veils like the burqa in public. Troubled aerospace giant Boeing safety lapses amplified over the weekend. A KLM Boeing 777 bound for Rio de Janeiro made an emergency landing back at Amsterdam's Schiphol airport shortly after takeoff. Flight KLM 705 reported an unspecified technical issue and turned around over Belgium. Meanwhile, a Virgin Atlantic flight bound for San Francisco was forced to reroute after its windscreen cracked mid-air at 40,000 feet. The incident occurred nearly 3 hours after it took off from London's Heathrow Airport. Now, the history of safety issues dating back to the year 2018. In fact, the 2018 and 2019 crashes of the 737 MAX 8 resulting in 346 deaths. These incidents eroded public trust and triggered regulatory actions, contributing to a challenging period for Boeing. A recent survey also revealing that Americans are scared of flying as Boeing safety lapses continue. The company's leadership has undergone a shake-up, with CEO Dave Calhoun announcing his departure by year-end. This comes as Boeing faces potential criminal charges from the U.S. Justice Department related to the 737 MAX crashes. Boeing's troubles are not limited to commercial aviation. The company's ambitious Starliner spacecraft, designed to ferry astronauts to and from the International Space Station, also encountered difficulties. A recent crewed mission for Starliner was forced to indefinitely delay its return to planet Earth due to technical issues, including helium leaks and thruster failures. The Starliner program has also incurred significant cost overruns, raising serious questions about its long-term viability. A recent report also claiming that NASA overlooked Boeing leaks during the pre-launch. This possibly puts NASA on the hot seat as well. Boeing, you see, is at a crossroads. The company faces potential loss of government contracts, reputational damage, and ongoing delays in its space program. The future of Boeing's leadership and its ability to regain public trust remain up in the air. Let me now ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a traffic jam on a river? Before you start scratching your head, let me tell you what we are talking about. Our next story is about one of Asia's busiest waterways. It has been dealing with a number of issues. What is its significance? What is being done